Caging Skies and the movie Adaptation, Jojo Rabbit. And Caging Skies is by Christine Leunens?
Luna. I don't know.
Hopefully we pronounced that right. But before we get started, let's talk a little bit about the wine we're drinking. What are we drinking today, Lynn?
We are drinking another wine from the LVE by John Legend and Christy Teigen. It's a French sparkling rosé. I actually really enjoy it. Put a couple ice cubes in there, chill it out. It's sweet, crisp, and straight to the point. Like I like it.
Yum.
It's also good with a popsicle in it.
I will take your word for it.
I can second that.
Thank you, because we stuck popsicles in them.
It was delish.
So are you guys saying you're already drinking prior to the rating?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, just a few. Just a few.
Plead the fifth.
Just took a sip.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Cajun Skies and Jojo Rabbit. What do you want to talk about?
I
definitely get that it's based on the novel. It's not an adaptation
It's adopted.
at all. It is definitely based, which it said at the end. It was based on the novel, and I was like, yeah, clearly.
But what's interesting is the book. If you look at the book summary, it says it's like comedic, but I didn't get it in reading. I didn't get
Not
any
at all.
comedy in reading
It was very serious in the book.
I mean,
felt.
that's how I read it.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't find
I try
anything
not to
funny.
read any of the summaries of anything before I read them because I want to be surprised. But I probably should have did that this time. I probably, should have.
Because then you could have maybe listened to it with a different perspective and maybe found some humor. Because I found zero funny in the book. I mean, zero.
I thought it was, serious, but then a lot of the points and things that happened was far-fetched.
Yes.
So I was kind of like, maybe that's supposed to be the comedic aspect of it. But I literally was like, there's nothing funny about this. Like, it's not funny.
Like, I wanted to cry.
I get it that you're trying to make light of the situation or that it was misinterpreted, but it wasn't funny. There was no comedic aspect of it at all.
And
But
normally I do read the summary because I want a gist of, so I can put my mind in the right direction kind of thing. But I didn't with this one. And as soon as I saw Hitler, it immediately became unfunny.
Right.
So, yeah, I found no humor at all.
In the book.
In the book.
And the movie?
The movie.
The movie was funny.
Yeah, the movie was fun.
I was kind of getting upset that I was laughing.
Me too. Well, their character was hilarious.
Yes. And who makes Hitler a guardian angel?
Sam
Like, that's
Rockwell.
just insane.
Right.
And that was hard for me to, swallow. Like, that pill right there. I was like, Hitler as a guardian angel to a child is so wrong in so many ways that it made it funny.
But I guess when you think about the book, the irony of the book that he was idolizing Hitler, he wanted to be a Nazi and he wanted to hate the Jewish community, but then fell in love with the Jewish girl. So, I mean, I guess the irony in the book could have been funny, but the humor definitely came out more in the movie.
Yeah.
Because they elaborated.
I meant to say, what was his name? How do you pronounce that name? Takia Waititi?
Taika?
I'm guessing
Waititi?
Sorry.
Taika Waititi?
Takaya Waititi?
There we go.
He can fix it for us. The one thing that kind of bothered me was there were a lot more references to how he felt about his parents, more specifically his mom, throughout the whole book. He was very upset when he found out about the girl hidden. He even went as far to say he hated his mom. And I think that they cut it so much that you missed a little bit of that, how much effort she put into making sure that he didn't know that there was somebody there, and then how much effort he went into making it hidden that he knew about her.
Right.
I mean, I guess you have to do that to turn it into a movie, but it was too short.
Right.
Oh, I agree, because he was repulsed at for one, a Jew being in his house, but for two, his mom being a part of it, and how beneath her she was because she was okay and supporting and taking care of this in-grade base is how I was feeling from it. So they kind of touched that he was surprised in the movie, but in the book, you could the tangible aspect of that hate was there.
Yeah, he had that same disgust that Hitler disgust with the whole thing. But I guess you have to also keep in mind he was a little kid.
Right. Can I just say that in the movie, I absolutely love JoJo's mom, her character, just in general.
Scarlett Johansson?
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
cute.
I loved her.
Parenting goals.
Right. Right. When she did the scene where she was dressing up like the father
Yeah.
and was playing both roles, that was hilarious
It was so
to me.
cute.
Yes, Scarlett Johansson did a really good job.
She did. I'm a fan of her. So.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I liked in the movie how they played more on sort of the irony. Like, for instance, the guy who was the captain, the head soldier, Sam Rockwell.
Such a fan of his too.
So his role, where he was actually a gay man, which Hitler hated, but he was leading the military and trying to play it off. I mean, that was funny to me.
Classic.
When he had that makeup on and when he designed his outfit.
I was legit picturing like Elton John, like this like flamboyant like gay person, and
when they pulled
with Hitler, and I was like, what?
But when they pulled it off at the end, like, oh my God, they have on the outfits.
They're standing behind him, the wind's blowing into like little sparkly cape. I was like, this is amazing.
So cute.
Yeah, and then at the end they showed how he actually was a nice person because he was looking out for Jojo.
Yeah.
At the end, so I like that.
I also think that because it moves so quickly, the way they changed the whole dialogue between Jojo and Elsa, is that how they said it? Elsa. That bothered me too because I wanted to slap the crap out of him when I was reading that book. I was like, this is so rude.
Yeah.
Like, you've had this girl in here all this time and she could have been free. So because it was so short, you don't recognize how long she was really in there.
Right.
You know, in the movie it was very different. In the book, it was just like years and years and years that she was
a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the? I want to slap him.
Neither one of them grew up. So that was a little disappointing to me because I wanted them to age because the book, he got to the point where he had to pay the bills and he had to find the food and then sell the house and all
he had
this
to
stuff.
move. And
And so he didn't get any older to show any responsibilities. And then he did just immediately let her know, oh, you're free.
I'm actually glad they left that part out. That was very depressing from the point where they moved. I was depressed from that whole chapter on to the end. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, he's just holding her hostage.
I was not depressed. I'm telling you, I wanted to strangle him. I'm okay with the first one. I mean, I'm not okay with it, but okay the first time. Oh, give me maybe another more week.
Right.
But seriously, like years went by, dude.
Years.
Like they concerned with like the neighbors, like seeing her. Obviously, you have no compassion for this woman's actual like well-being. It's all about you.
Yeah.
And
if
she
you're
was still
worried
going
the neighbors
like in the hole.
Exactly.
Which was much bigger.
As like a full-on adult.
I mean, much smaller seeming in the book. In the book, it seemed more like she was like laying down. She couldn't move.
Yes.
Right.
She didn't really have room to move around.
It wasn't like a small little loft
attic or
whatever.
Yeah.
I love the ending of the movie when, before the ending, he was like, what would you do if you were free? What was the first thing you were going to do? She was like, dance. And she literally started dancing.
Oh, that was cute. When they were dancing at the end,
It was very cute. Yeah.
Well, because, they could be friendly at the end because he didn't keep her in a cage like an animal.
Yeah.
For like her whole life.
Pretty much.
One of the things that I laughed out loud about was in the movie, they were at the training camp. And for one, the training camp, all of the soldiers that were in training, they had like half of a swastika on their arm. Was that because they weren't full soldiers yet? And they didn't have a full swastika?
Here goes the deep thinker, because I did not know
I was thinking of it like they were only halfway in. Like, these really were people who were just not in it.
So I was like, it's like half, but like kind of like a lightning bolt, but not. It's literally half a swastika. So I was like, maybe it's because they're still in training. So that, I was obsessed with that for like a good quarter of the movie. So I missed a lot of happen.
Meanwhile, I saw none of that.
But the funny thing I was going to was when they were at the training camp and they were dancing kind of like in the woods, and they said 1, 2, 3 swastika, and they all got down and did like a Tebow swastika shape pose. I
one person
burst
did it
out
wrong,
laughing.
like, oh.
Exactly. I was like picturing like a Tim Tebow pose that was actually like a swastika shaped, and I just died laughing.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
I realized that satire was there and it's not a funny situation, but who poses like that?
But it's funny because Jojo, I think, was the one who did it wrong at first. Who was like, and then switched it, had both arms up and then switched it down. It was cute.
Well, I thought it was just so interesting that like Jojo was so deep into it, and I guess you don't really see the other characters and how they were at home and everything, but he was so deep in his brain, but yet when you get to camp, you're the weakest link.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was so funny to me.
Yeah, that's true.
Was he portrayed as the weakest link in the book at camp? I remember a scene about his boots, and they were making fun of his boots because they were his dad's.
Yeah, they were too big.
But I can't remember whether he was.
He wasn't as fearful as he was in the movie. He was very scared of everything in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall him being that scared in the book.
So I don't know if this happened to you all or if I was just dozing off while reading. But at some point, I was having a hard time determining whether the girl was real or fake in the book because there was this whole dialogue that he was imagining her. And I'm like, well, is he really imagining her? Do y'all remember that?
It left me up to think, like, okay, at the end of this, is he going to come to the fact that, oh, I'm imagining this whole girl?
Right.
I did think that for a minute.
Okay,
yes.
so it wasn't just me. Because I was like, this is, I don't know. Because the grandma even said something. First of all, I'm really upset that the grandma was not in the movie at all.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
But the grandma in the book made a comment like, that's just your imagination. Mm-hmm. Those are pigeons upstairs. And then I was like, well, maybe she was real. And then she left. But yet he still keep thinking that she's in there.
Was maybe that's why they decided to play into making it just his childhood. That, like, it was his imagination the whole time. Like, she wasn't really captive. Or she was. And then he let her go. And then when he became an adult, that whole adult aspect was imagined because he was so in love and attached to her.
Right.
So maybe that's what they were going for by leaving the whole adulthood out, was that actually was imagined.
So that's what I was thinking, that the adult aspect of her captivity was his imagination. When I finished the book, that's what I was thinking. And then when we watched the movie and he had this whole imaginary Hitler friend, I'm like, oh, yeah, see, he gets up in his imagination.
Yes.
So maybe she was fake, but then it didn't go that far in the movie.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm still confused.
I mean, he also wrote, like, letters from her boyfriend.
Right.
That was hilarious.
And then was, like, reading them, and you could tell he has a really in-depth, like, imagination. So that could be true.
I did not get that from it at all. That's so
From the
weird.
book?
Mm-mm. I just, the only thing I thought he was imagining was their deeper relationship, but not necessarily that she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking he was imagining that, he was having all these relations with her, but those weren't real.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just thinking that he was slightly crazy after everything he experienced with his mom and his father dying and then his accident, that he created this imaginary friend.
How about every freaking incident or every time they could possibly say something about how ugly he looked with his little scars on his face? I was like, this poor baby. And what was her name?
Rebel.
Rebel was freaking hilarious.
I love her.
When she threw that little boy, go ahead, carry this over to those people over there.
Right, give her a big hug.
And then she picks up this, like, grenade launcher. Like, you're
It's like,
crazy.
go hug him. Go give him a big hug.
Yeah, she was
Basically
good.
blows
But
her
I
up.
like her. She's funny and everything.
Her as a person, as a character, like, to see where she came from, she's actually a lawyer in Australia. Like, went to law school, became a lawyer, and then was like, you know what, I really like comedy. So went and decided to be a comedian. And
How nice.
Like,
cool.
it's just so, she followed her passion, and that definitely shows that. But I think she's so funny because she literally is passionate about it. You had a whole career plan, and you changed it because of your passion. It shows in her acting to me.
She will always be Fat Amy.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Fat Amy. Really?
Boom, boom, boom.
Just like, I can't do that. No.
All right, so we want to move in and talk about the cast. I guess we already did kind of a little. We talked about Rebel. We loved her.
We didn't talk about Yorkie.
I love Yorkie.
Oh, Yorkie. He was such a cute little actor.
He was like, yeah. They told me when he came in with his uniform for the war. I guess he was a soldier or whatever.
It was paper.
Paper. He was like, no, they told me it's paper material.
Paper-like.
Yeah, paper-like.
Oh my
I was
God.
dying.
And then every time you saw him, it was like ripped up even more, but he was still sporting it. And then near the end, there was nothing. It was like blood coming out his back. It was bare skin, but he's still like the true and the proud. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
So cute.
And there was a scene in the movie where he was talking to Jojo, and he was like, man, I mean, I think the last thing we need to be worried about is the Jews. I was cracking up. I was like, he was so real. I thought I was your best friend.
That was so and it's so funny because, like, Jojo was like in the house, like with his injuries, and of course Yorkie's out and seeing everything, and they want to catch up as best friends, like you're saying. And it's like, hey, yeah, there's Jew in my house, and the whole time he's still being that best friend, like, yeah, man, yeah, but I don't think the Jews what we gotta worry about, man. I was with you. I was dying.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was so fun. And then what about what was the guy's name that came in? Oh gosh, I didn't even write this person down. The guys that came in to kind of investigate the house.
Oh yeah, the tall.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's actually British in real life, but the tall British guy.
Oh
Gosh, it was so funny.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but I've seen him in something else he was in also. But yeah.
But that whole scene of her pretending to be like this sister.
Hi Hitler. Hi Hitler.
As for every person.
Hi Hitler. I'm like, oh my god.
Will you stop already?
And then after, like, we did it again, and I was just like, oh my god, 3 times. Like, can we just get like a hello, everybody?
God. It was so funny.
But it actually makes you think, like, I know it's satire, but with, like, I guess, the Aryan way of life of thinking that way, maybe it's actually pretty true that they want, like, to be acknowledged individually. Mm-hmm. Like, when you walk into a room to show respect versus being like, hey, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of, like, one, you might, like, I guess, Heil Hitler to, like, Hitler, but to everybody else to show respect and power, it might be individualized. And so I was just like, maybe they're playing on that to say, show how ridiculous it is to greet every person that is a Nazi individually in a room. So maybe that's what I was thinking in my head was this, that it's so ridiculous that let's just beat that to a pulp.
Was that Stephen Merchant?
Yes, there we go.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
Thank for Google.
Well, I like the fact
I didn't Google it, I knew it.
Snitch.
I like the fact that every single thing that they highlighted that had truth to it as it relates to Hitler and his mindset, it was just so over the top. They were actually able to highlight how ridiculous everything was, and including what you just highlighted. But I just thought it was so funny every time they had Hitler talking.
Yeah. And he definitely, the writer, Taki Watati, as he used Hitler as the guardian angel to be, like, to play on a child noviceness and, like, stupidity, kind of like how they're moldable and dependable, like you can make them what you want them to be as people, and how they kind of use that, but like a childlike humor, the things that, like, because Hitler was ridiculous in this movie.
Yeah, right. He was hilarious.
The things that he did, and like laying in the bed,
Right.
where were you?
I was waiting for you.
I was over there, like, so what were you with, the Jew? You was with the Jewish girl?
Exactly.
Oh
and then,
my
like,
God.
joke out the windows, like, things like that. Like, that's literally, like, a child's mentality of, like, their imagination.
Right.
So I kind of like how he took that role to play off of a child imagination.
I love that. I love the way that they do that. And the other piece when they had him drawing the crazy characters of what the Jews look like, the the monster characters in the book.
Oh, it's accurate. With the horns and everything.
I mean, he grabbed his book and was like, so tell me, you live in a cave, right? You grew up in the field. I mean, it was just so funny. He was serious.
Yes,
Then when, like, the people that came in to, like, raid the place and search it, they were reading the book and they're like, oh, this is so accurate. You know, the Jew has horns and he, like, hangs upside down. And, like, and that was just so ridiculous.
And then how about while Hitler was having a conversation with him at the table and he had already talked about, like, what he's feasting on. I'm feasting on, I think one of the times is when he said, I'm feasting on unicorns and something. And then they literally showed him with a unicorn head at the table and he's eating a unicorn head.
The table from Jojo who's, like, drinking, like, broth.
Yeah,
Just
starving.
eating, like, a unicorn head.
Yeah, but I'm going to stand in front of you and have this feast.
Yes.
This ridiculous feast.
Right.
Of an imaginary animal.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
So what's the guy's name that was in Game of Thrones that was in the movie? Reek.
I call him Reek.
I can't see him in any other role. Theon.
Pre-castration.
Theon pre-castration, you're right. He did earn his name back, but as of right now,
He picked up some weight, too. I was like,
he did.
Yeah.
He really did.
I think he lost weight. You talking about Alfie Allen?
Yeah.
She's trying to act like she knows.
She's trying to school us.
All right, so we're ready to rate this?
Yeah.
Are we? I'm just trying to think. Did we forget anything? Because I actually loved the movie. I just was lost. Like, I remember, like, watching halfway through and I'm like, WTF? What the that?
So many times I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
What is happening right now?
I was like, where's the grandma?
Right, exactly.
I want the grandma.
I just couldn't laugh at, like, a Hitler-themed movie, and I felt like a complete douchebag for laughing at something Hitler-related. But it was funny.
Believe
I mean, I
that
was
was the
cracking
point
up.
because Hitler is so serious. I believe that I felt like they tried to poke fun at Hitler himself because, because it was so serious. It was very, it wasn't nothing funny about it at all. But the movie itself, I think they just...
they poked fun at how ridiculous and over the top he was and the fact that people could actually follow him.
Exactly.
Well, I think if they either are going to do a Hitler-based movie, it has to be, like, extremely serious or it has to be a satire type situation.
Right.
Like, Quentin Tarantino did the same thing with, like, his Inglourious Bastard. It was a satire movie because it was based on the truth, but his own truth, as in Quentin Tarantino's truth. Mm-hmm. So there's no way you can make a movie that's either in between. It's either serious or full-on, like, WTF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would have been happy with the satire version of it if they hadn't changed so many aspects of it. Because some stuff just didn't line up with the book, and I don't know why they changed the particular story.
Are we back to Grandma?
Yes, we're back to Grandma. You know what? I just wanted to see her. She was kind of funny. I guess she was kind of funny in the book.
I think that was probably the only comic relief.
She was the comedy in the book.
So I would have loved to have seen her in that movie. Yes, we're back to
so
Grandma.
sorry you feel this way. That you're disappointed.
But it's because he really didn't have, again, enough time by himself. Like, they showed small little aspects of him going and trying to get food, but it was such a short time period that you couldn't really get into it. And then wait a minute, we got to talk about the hanging of his mama.
Oh, man.
I skipped over that on purpose. That was very sad.
He was like walking and he saw those shoes and they tied him up.
And
and the cinematography, like her just dancing with her shoes, and then that scene. That was like stabbing the heart.
Because he was just walking by and just happened to look over like, wait, I know those shoes. It was very sad.
After having that relatable moment with her dancing and him dancing, and you saw their love for each other, and then her hanging there, I was like, right in the heart.
Yeah.
And then
it did take you on a little emotional roller coaster.
It did. And then when they're ending the movie, Elsa getting to the door and him tying her shoes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Very cute.
Yeah. It was very symbolic.
Yes.
Like, and then he stopped at the door the same way his mom did before she left out.
So you ready for an adventure or something he said that his mom said? Yeah. So, that was very nice.
Well, didn't they dance at the end also?
Mm-hmm. They danced once they got out the door. But the same way when mom was trying to push him out to go to school, she stopped at that door and he did the exact same thing. Like, oh man, Jojo.
And maybe Jojo is like by himself.
Yeah.
Well, he's never gonna have to be by himself again now. She's not leaving him.
Okay, so let's rate this movie.
I'm not in it.
So I actually enjoyed the movie, and I actually enjoyed the book, but the adaptation sucked. So I'm gonna give it a sip.
I struggle with this also because from the adaptation basis, it was nothing like it, and I was gonna give it a sip. But I realized at the end it did say loosely based, so I get it. So I'm gonna give it a half a glass.
That's what I wrote down. I'm gonna give it a half glass too. One thing had nothing to do with the other. They did say it was based on it. And the beginning and the end stay true, kind of.
No,
he lived and she lived.
Oh, right. And the girl lived in a closet.
Exactly.
Right? And the mama died.
That's the base points, I guess. Right? Yeah, but when I went back and reviewed it, I did see the same thing that Lynn said. They at least said it was based on the story. So I'll give it a half a glass. Any reason to drink for me.
I actually despise this book. With a passion. I wrote that in capital letters after I finished it.
You hated the book?
I hate it because of the ending period. It just left it like, okay, now what?
She got away.
Yeah, but you didn't know what happened to her.
She got away because she wasn't real in the end.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what I'm leading up to. But so I hated this book. I'm sorry. I love the movie though.
Okay.
So, and I would have given it a sip also, with the exception of the cast and the funny part.
Yeah.
So I also give it a half glass based on that.
Okay, well, we're not getting a full bottle.
No.
I encourage you to go look at the movie and definitely check out the book, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Yes, pick it up. Caging Skies. Just keep in mind, it's called Caging Skies as the book.
And the movie is Jojo Rabbit.
And also try the LVE wine by
whatever's left of it.
Right.
There's none left.
I'm hiding the rest away from you.
Well, it'd be nice to get another couple of bottles as sponsors.
Would have shared, but it's all gone.
It's gone. Try a popsicle in the wine. I don't get. I'm eating the popsicles that have Patrol on them. You can use whatever popsicle you want. It's really good.
Alrighty. Okay.
All right. Hit us up on Instagram at Rewatch Wine.
Facebook and Twitter at Rewatch Wine. You can email us at rewatchwine@gmail.com.
Send us your suggestions over